and welcome back to the Mature Movers podcast, where we talk all things healthy aging. Today, I'm going to be talking to Rachel and Annie, who are both silver-haired models and co-founders of the Silver and Sassy fashion events, which bring together gorgeous greying women over the age of 45. Both Annie and Rachel have lived really interesting lives, and we will be touching on their experience in the TV and fashion industries and their attitudes towards aging. So guys, I'd like to start off by asking you to kind of go a little bit more into depth about who you are and your journey so far. So also include your ages, because we love this intergenerational chat and finding out kind of what experience and wisdom that we all have to offer. So yeah, let's go, Rachel.
Right, hi. So my name's Rachel Peru and I am 51, be 52 in a couple of months. I live in North Yorkshire and I've lived here all my life in this kind of area. Love it. Got 3 children. My youngest is now 19. So I've got 19-year-olds, 22-year-olds and a 24-year-old. So they have all kind of flown the nest. So we've got some free space at home and not as much tidying up to do, which is quite nice. I'm married to Mark and I actually, it's my second marriage. So I got divorced at 39 and found love again, which has been really, really just wonderful and very different. So yeah, I didn't have a career in my 20s and 30s. I kind of bumbled my way through life doing retail jobs, nothing really kind of anything that I was passionate about, but paid the bills. And then I got to my kind of late 30s and I found myself getting divorced at 39 after being with my first partner from the age of 16. So it was a long time being with one person to suddenly find yourself single. And at 40, it's like, okay, who am I? What do I like? What do I need to? I needed to rediscover myself, really. So I spent the last 10, 11 years doing exactly that. For my 40th, I did a tandem skydive because I'm so terrified of heights. But I thought if I can do that, then I'm going to go into this next decade being braver and trying new things. So I actually went to university, got an education studies degree at 41. Thought I would be doing early years teaching for the next couple of decades. I thought that was going to be my new career. My eldest daughter got acute anxiety when she was a teenager, which actually resulted in her being homeschooled, which then meant that I was back at home full time. So after going through all that and going through university and thinking that I got it all sorted, that was a huge blow to my confidence. And it was during that time that a friend very kindly offered us both to do some volunteer fashion show modelling. I'd not done anything like that before, but I said yes. And after several gin and tonics, did it and absolutely loved it. So I was 41 then and I really enjoyed it and came off the station thinking, right, I want to do this again. I can't wait. Continued to do it each year. And then I got to 46 and obviously my eldest daughter was much, much better. So she was back at school. My other kids were much more independent. And I'd got loads of encouragement from photographers saying, why don't you try modelling? So I thought, well, actually, yeah, why not? So at 46, sent off all my photos to different model agencies and got signed with a London agency pretty much immediately. And I've been working ever since. So I now find myself at 51 modelling lingerie, swimwear, fashion, beauty, and I would never have had the confidence to do this when I was younger. So it's a real it's a revelation really, and I'm loving it. It's liberating. So that's pretty much my story quickly.
I would definitely recommend any listeners to go and look at some of your pictures because they're just so amazing and so empowering. I had a look at some of the ones that you sent through earlier and I was like, wow, you look like a goddess. And I was like, I hope she doesn't look too nice because I'm in my gym kit recording this. I'll look awful. No,
well, you don't, but I do have a team of hair and makeup people that make me look like that.
Well, they've got to start somewhere and you've obviously got that natural beauty and it's just so inspiring, especially when we live in an age where image is so important. Maybe it shouldn't be like that, but it's just instilled in us that image is pretty much everything, especially for younger generations. It's a huge pressure. So I just wanted to quickly chat about the fact that you found, well, you mentioned that you found love again.
Yes.
And I think that that's something that we haven't discussed yet on the podcast. And it is really interesting because you just change as a person from 16 to then into your mid-20s. You are constantly evolving and becoming and becoming wiser, but also becoming more fearful of the world. So a lot of people will usually, well, in my experience, my personal experience, I was super confident as a young person and like even as a kid. And then the older I become, I'm like, oh, I care too much about like what other people think. And then I'm just way more fearful of what people are going to say about me and things like that. So what kind of gave you that, like that confidence to say, okay, I'm ready to enter another relationship, or I'm confident in myself that I'm at a point in my life where I can kind of, this is the right time?
I think it was doing things. I think it was saying yes to things, and like going to university as a mature student gave me bags of confidence. Traveling, I went traveling and volunteered in an orphanage in Uganda and India, things that I'd never done before when I was younger. And so it wasn't necessarily, it was a combination of lots of different things. And I actually met my husband on Match.com because I live in I lived at the time in a very small village that I'd lived in all my life. And when you've been with one partner for 24 years, everybody knows you as a couple. And so it was just a really nice opportunity to meet somebody that wasn't from this area. And how else do you meet people at this, in this day and age? And actually, it turned out, we were really, really lucky. And at the time, Mark, bless him, was living in London, and we had a conversation on Match. And I was like, well, I'm in Yorkshire with 3 kids. He's in London. How's that going to work? And we actually carried on talking on Facebook for about 6 months. And then I invited myself down for a weekend, and that was it. Couldn't get rid of me.
Oh, lovely. Love it. Oh, that's so lovely. Thank you for sharing that. So, Annie, how about you? Tell us about your story.
Well, my story, a few more years on Rachel's. I'm 71, 72 this year. There's about 20 years between Rachel and I. We've got our birthdays in the same month in May. So, I wish I was 20 years younger and still had a few more of those years in front of me. But I'm having a great time at the minute because I've been lucky enough to have a career that's taken me all over the UK and met some fabulous, lovely people and given me great opportunities. So I've worked in food. My career has been in food for most of my life. And I started off as a home ec teacher in schools, and had 2 children, Ed and Sarah, the eldest and Sarah. And then got into adult education, and so teaching, lecturing, demonstrating, and just quite by chance got into local radio. I managed to persuade BBC Radio York to come along and promote some of the courses that I was organising at the Further Education College that I worked at, which was a satellite college of Askham Bryan College in York. And they trained me up to use the radio car in the days before there was too much about health and safety. So I just used to drag this long hose pipe of a microphone out of a car on a Saturday morning and put the mat over it from the stairwell in the car and just go and stick the microphone into the local fishmonger and greengrocer and say, now then, Fred, how's your sprouts today? And and things like this. And what's the best buy and what's the pick of the week? And then I'd roll it all in again, and they'd send me off somewhere else. So it was like, for me, it felt high pressure stuff, but I absolutely loved it. I was a bit of an adrenaline junkie, so it was great stuff. And then just weirdly how things happen, just, you meet people, you get an opportunity, you get a little contact from somewhere. So I got in to do a little bit of television with Tyne Tees, as it was then, the local regional television. And then it just went from there. I cheekily sent off an email. I never thought it would land anywhere in particular, but I thought I'll send it off to This Morning and ask them if I were suitable to go and present one of their cookery slots. I don't know how I had the brass neck to do it, actually, but I think, I don't know, from somewhere I managed to summon up the whatever it is you summon up. Anyway, there wasn't an opportunity at the time, but they kept my info on file. And when they needed a home economist and a food stylist for the show, I was invited along, asked to bring along some ideas for the show that would take the cookery features up until Christmas, so I did. And they said, right, well, it's great. We've got a 6-week trial on offer. Take it or leave it. So having just accepted a job at York College to lecture for a year, I then had to make that awful phone call and say, look, I'm sorry, it was the most awful phone call I've ever had to make, but they were brilliant. They said, look, take this fantastic opportunity. So I had 5 years on This Morning when it was broadcast from Liverpool, from the dock with, Rich and Judy, R&J, as they were called then. And it was fantastic. So my job was to set up all the food items for all the cooks and chefs on the show. So just an amazing opportunity. And then I rode the crest of the food wave, and the food bubble, which has never burst. Everybody keeps saying, well, it can't possibly go on for any longer. And it's just gone on and on and on and got bigger and bigger. So all the chefs and cooks got series of their own. So having realised that I was quite happy to ferret away in a tiny little cupboard at the back of the studio, making all their food look nice, I was asked to go and work on the shows, made all over the country. So I was travelling all over the country with an estate car full of food and props and equipment, and it was my job to set up and all those lovely sets you see on this side of the coast and in fields and in really kind of inhospitable, windy, wild places. That was my job, to make everything look completely seamless and make sure every last teaspoon and every last sprig of parsley was not blown away down the coastline. So it was great. And then I had my life did seem to go in 5-year stints, because I then had 5 years working as one of the chefs and cooks on Gloria Hunniford's Open House, which was recorded it was filmed in London. It was live 3 days a week and pre-recorded on 2. So I worked on that as one of the series cooks. So I did 5 years on that. Great fun. Gloria was fantastic fun. She was really great. She would stand and have a bacon butty with us all and tell a few jokes. She was really good sense of fun and quite a wicked sense of humour. So we had all sorts of people. They would wheel all kinds of people into the kitchen, mostly comedians, but often the big stars. And I once had Steve Owen, who unfortunately had a terrible accident, sadly passed away, but he actually came into the kitchen once with a Hessian sack. And Gloria said, oh, can you just open the sack? What's in there? And of course, we knew what was in there. It was a huge snake, which she then proceeded to put round my shoulders just before I was due to do my cookery items. So I was like,
crazy.
really crazy. So I then went on. I've probably done over 50 series over the course of my career, different series, food series all over the place, recorded series, food quiz shows, all kinds of shows. I had a great time. It's really, it wasn't life or death, but it was really stressful, which I think probably accounted for some of my grey hair, because it was, deadline busting stuff, and it was amazing. The lights could go down, the sound could go, but if ever the food wasn't ready, it was like all hell and damnation let loose, because you could never not have the food and the equipment and everything ready. But I remember we've stood around for quite lengthy spells of time while the Sparkies got the lighting right, but no excuses for the food, because that's easy to do. So and then I moved into PR, and at the same time I set up my own food PR business called Absolutely Food, which I ran for about 10 years. But I'd worked in PR before that with another business partner. And at the same time, for 10 years, I worked for Yorkshire Life as their food and drink consultant, doing a monthly column on all sorts of things, food and drink, and hosted their awards, their annual awards. So I used to put a posh frock on and stand with Harry Gratian, the local TV regional presenter at the time, and announce all the winners from the county for the food and drink awards. So and then retired, and I thought, well, what do I do now? I've retired, and I don't mind sort of sitting on the step and having a cup of tea at some point, but I thought, I don't really want to, kind of sit on the step and enjoy my cup of tea forever. So I thought I really must find something to do. So I thought, well, I was sitting, it was one February day actually, and there was an advert on Facebook saying models required, no experience required. And I thought, well, that sounds probably right up my street. So we'd been to a Great Gatsby night. So I sent a photograph off to a model. It was supposed to be an agency, but it wasn't. They just wanted some money off you for photographs. But I had some photographs done, and they were, quite well received. Showed them to my Gemma, who looks after my nails, and she said, "Well, you ought to show the girls in the boutique because they'll probably be really happy to have you at one of their charity modelling events." So I showed them, and they liked the photographs and said, yeah, come and join us, come and do some modelling. So it just went from there, really. And then a series of coincidences. My kids, Ed and Sarah, for my 70th birthday, they organised me a photo shoot with a Leeds photographer who just happened to be doing the creatives for Meatless Farm. Sort of a big marketing campaign, and weirdly they sort of were looking for an older woman, a sort of Granny Annie type. so I became Granny Annie, and I remember going for the photo shoot, and they said to me, "Right, okay, Annie, that was great. See you on the billboard." And I went, "Yeah, right." And it was funny. I didn't really know too much about what I was going to be doing. I thought, I'm going to be appearing on a pack of sausages or something, and it was to appear on a billboard. So I've been big in Battersea and loud and proud in Leeds on the billboards. But kind of I was sort of made to look a bit older than I think I probably look at the minute.
Yeah. That's
fantastic. Yeah,
it's really interesting. I've actually experienced a similar situation to that. I was about 16 or 17, and my friend sent me a text message to say, "Oh, I've just got this text message about this like modeling opportunity," and I didn't want to do any modeling, and I was just like, I think it was aimed at like YouTube, and I was like, I don't really know why she sent it to me now. Actually, I look back and I'm like, I never actually showed any interest in that then. But anyway, she sent it to me, and it was in Shoreditch or something, and I was in like right on the edge of West London, near Uxbridge. So it's quite a journey. And because I was playing a netball match in the morning, and it was a real challenge to get there. And I just thought, I'll go turn up and see about this audition. And I turned up, and it was like this really like cool boutique space, and there were loads of girls, like young girls, and I was partnered with one girl, and we went into this, and they said, "Right, like tell me who you are," and I went, I didn't know who I was, and I absolutely did such an appalling job, and the girl with me was absolutely smashed it, and she was like, "So this is my name, and this is and she'd had it rehearsed." And I went home and I went, "Oh, that was a really good experience, but there's no way I got it." Anyway, I found out a few weeks later I was shortlisted, and I was like, "What?" And I thought this was all volunteer. Like, I didn't expect to get paid for it or anything like that. And I turned up after I'd got shortlisted, I was kind of put through to the final group of girls, and I turned up, and it was Clean and Clear, so like the skin company, and we did like a whole like day of shooting and blah, blah, blah. And then one day I turned up to be on a big poster in Superdrug, and I was like, this is mental.
Wow, that's
amazing. So I like kind of know I can relate to that experience of like being like, whoop, and then getting paid to be a model, and now I can be like, I'm a professional model, even though it was like ages ago, that one time. That's my claim to fame. But yeah, anyway, carry on. So
just thinking, because Rachel, you're on is it Bravissimo? window.
Bravissimo shop window this week, yeah, and I was so pleased because obviously lingerie models are usually kind of 25 and under. It's very rare to see older women in lingerie campaigns. It's something that I'm really passionate about. And now that, you know, Bravissimo started using they've started using an older model and included me in the window display with other women of all age groups. I was like, yes, it's a bit of a breakthrough.
That's brilliant. Oh, amazing.
Yeah, it's really good.
So then you Annie, you got into this modeling. You did that, and then was that it? That like the rest is history?
No, I thought, well, join an organisation or get involved with somebody who's doing fashion. So I just went to join York Fashion Week. The first time I thought about it, I was too late for that particular year. But then I went along and I said, well, look, you know, we haven't got anything for women with grey, silver, white hair. I was thinking that they'd send me packing, but they said, yeah, go off and organise it. So Rachel, they said, well, you need another, you know, sort of silver partner. So I knew that Rachel was also looking at teaming up and modelling with York Fashion Week. So we just got in touch, we hit it off straight away, and Rachel, being Rachel, she got it straight away. And then we formed a little team, makeup and stylist, and we formed Silver and Sassy, and it just became a thing, and it's just grown. And then we did this between us, this amazing event in September. The first time we planned it, it was pulled just before the pandemic was announced, so we couldn't do it, but we knew that we had something special, and so we decided to keep going with it. And the planning was massive. We put an awful lot into it. We drew on all our resources and all our energy and strength and creativity, and we pulled off the most amazing, you know, even if we say it ourselves, we were both, weren't we, Rachel? We were really moved by the power of it for the women who took part.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It was a really empowering day, wasn't it?
Oh, it was totally. Yeah, totally. I think we just felt quite choked up, really, because we knew that they'd all had a good time in the lead up to the event. You know, we'd had lots of fitting sessions and lots of sessions where they could get to all the models, just, you know, women who some of them we'd come across through so friends, from colleagues, people we knew. We put shout outs out on social media, but they were just such a diverse, fabulous group of women. We couldn't have done it with a nicer group of women, but they were all fired up by this event. And I think the accolades.
Just before you carry on, so the event is a fashion show. It's a charity event. Correct me if I'm wrong, but yes. It's a charity event, fashion show, and it's in Yorkshire.
Yes.
Yeah. So, and the first time you did it was last September,
so it doesn't seem that long ago. Yeah, at Goldsborough Hall. So it was our first event, was a charity event before Kira, which is a women's organisation, and so we chose. There was 14 of us, Danny, wasn't there? 14 models.
13 and us two, wasn't it? Yeah, so 15 altogether.
So it was women that had never modelled before, but all kind of volunteered for the experience. All came along. You know, some of them didn't know anybody. It was just wonderful to see. We're obviously on a WhatsApp group, and with the pandemic, it caused us to be on a WhatsApp group for nearly 2 years. So they all got to know each other during that time, which was really lovely. And they've all. The feedback that we've had from them after the event of how it's made them feel and how much more confident has been really quite overwhelming, hasn't it?
So I think it's, sorry, Annie, I'll let you talk in a minute. So I think it's really important to kind of talk about why people are feeling so confident. What are the current attitudes towards silver and grey hair, especially women, and how that can affect people's confidence, and then how you're counteracting that kind of confidence effect through your Silver and Sassy events?
I think there is still sadly a stigma attached to women going grey. It's as if, you get the comments of, you're letting yourself go. You're going to look much older than you are. And I think it's got a lot better. It's probably a lot better now than it was when Annie started going grey. I think because lots of younger people love the colour grey and actually go out and dye their hair that colour. But I still think in general in society, there is still this stigma attached to it, which can often leave women feeling really invisible. And when not represented in the media, you might get the odd token model, they're getting better. There's a token grey-haired model in the mix, but it's not the norm. And so if you don't see yourself being represented, then, and you also feel like you're getting judgment from other people, it can leave you feeling really just losing your confidence.
It's funny actually, because obviously since Rachel and I have done this Silver and Sassy, obviously there's been a huge interest in it, and what we wanted to prove was that women whose hair was changing visibly could go out there and rock it with the rest of the modelling world. So they could wear big bold jewellery, they could wear funky hairstyles, they could have it long or short and croppy and choppy. They could wear really vibrant clothes, colourful clothes, really, kind of sexy clothes. They could strut about with their lingerie on or their swimsuits, just being bold and brave. But it's fine as promoting that, but like Rachel said, there is still somehow, somewhere along the line, the advertisers and the marketeers don't really want to recognise it. Now, we have tried. Now, we actually got the event on regional and national television. So we appeared on Calendar, which is our ITV local television programme. So they did an item on us, which was brilliant. So thank you to Yorkshire to ITV Calendar. And then we appeared on. It was all around Britain, so it got a network slot. But if you think about any of the like Lorraine programme, like This Morning, I think they all say, oh yes, wouldn't that be nice? But actually, those are big programmes, have the sort of viewers that we're really trying to connect to. And yet they will not touch an item on grey, silver and white hair. Now, you have to ask why that is. Why do they not want to do it? Do they not want their programmes to appear to be, kind of see this visible effect of ageing because here's the grey hair? Would they rather just have their models, having dyed hair, blonde hair, dark hair, whatever? But you don't see Rachel and I and women like us on those big daytime programmes. Yeah. We're just not there, are we, Rachel?
No, not at all. I would say that across the board in TV, in newsreaders, I think there's a visible, kind of gap of grey-haired women that they just don't. But I think you're right. It's about aging, isn't it? And people being scared of aging, I guess. Still.
Yeah. I think the whole idea of being scared of aging is kind of one of the fundamental reasons why aging is frowned upon. It's that fear that people don't want to talk about, or people don't want to discuss, or I'm looking at it from an industry perspective. In terms of grey hair, I believe, and I think I talk about this in one of my first episodes of the podcast with a silver head and pro-aging ambassador based in South Africa, called Deborah Darling. So she was kind of explaining that it kind of started off with hair dye companies, so companies within the beauty industry wanting to make money and exploit people with grey hair. So ever since that, it's been okay, grey hair is, and advertising has now kind of put out there that grey hair is dull, it's ugly, it needs to be coloured. And it's I think before then that wasn't an issue, and we'll never know, because it was probably like hundreds of don't quote me, but hundreds of years ago, where you kind of that you're introduced to this concept, and as soon as somebody tells you something's ugly or dull, you're like, oh, I don't want to be ugly or dull. So it's that association between the two. And I'm absolutely fascinated by that thought that the bigger media companies and outlets are not interested in covering silver, grey stories or representation within those industries. I pitched a pro-aging article to a variety of journalists maybe about six to 8 months ago, and I didn't get any interest in it. And I just thought, you don't read about stuff like this. Why is there no interest? It's like so different. It's like a different aspect about like how we should approach and think about aging. And it just didn't, as you said, it didn't get any interest. And I think that's another thing that we probably need to talk about, maybe on another podcast, is interview is about how the media is playing such, I mean, I know that's so cliche, but how the media is playing such a huge part in silver and grey hair representation. I guess it like from so I'm mixed race, so my heritage, I've got brown skin. I don't know if you can tell, it's quite dark in here, but like it kind of used to be that concept, and it's still like predominant in the media. It's like there wasn't enough black or brown people representation, especially Indian people. How can we improve that? I think like the use of words is also really important. Like I don't think the word old should necessarily be negative.
I'm quite proud of the fact that I'm in my 50s now. And to be honest, I'm doing more now than I did in my 20s and 30s in terms of me personally. You know, obviously I was busy with kids and it was a different kind of fulfillment. But I feel like it's really exciting now to be getting on with life and doing different things. And look at what Annie's doing. Yeah. You show no signs, Annie, of slowing down at all, which I absolutely love.
Well, yeah, I mean, but it's interesting, just going back to what you were saying, Rosaria, about your particular situation and diversity. One of our models was Pret, and she's a former client of mine. And I'd noticed on Facebook that, I saw one day she'd had dark hair, and the next day there was a photograph of her with totally grey hair. So we invited Pret along. I invited her along nervously to see if she'd come and do some modelling, and she said yes. She was really excited to be asked to model, but she was just saying that in Asian culture it's not the norm to have grey hair, and in fact she's got two sisters who have gone grey and silver. But and again, in her family circle and in her social circle, it's not the norm. It's not totally accepted, although they've accepted them obviously because they're friends and family.
I'm just going to ask you, Rachel. So older life is not the end of the road, but so many people believe it is. Why do you think that is?
I think because, we've got to look back at the generations before us. When my mum left school, it was very much, she would have one career and that was going to be it for the rest of your life. And you had to know what you wanted to be at 16 and that was it. And you didn't really deviate from that. So, I was born in the 70s and I was very much taught the same kind of thing. And I think actually we're a generation that are actually turning around and saying, well, no, that's not the case. You can chop and change. You can try different things. You can change careers at 40 and 50 and 60. And I think we are opening up that conversation. I think this generation is the first ones that are really doing that, which is exciting. I've met so many women and men that have literally just completely changed careers later in life and are having an amazing time. And I'm not saying it's easy. It's just not as easy as just saying, I'm going to go try this now. They've obviously had to go through learning or, have had to retrain. But it's the fact that they can do that without the kind of the same stigma attached to it, the same kind of expectations in society where you've got to stay in the same thing, otherwise you failed in life. It's completely changed now and it's opened up that conversation.
Yeah, and I also think the fact that we're living longer can affect that, because now you're physically and mentally, maybe, there's a dementia Alzheimer's aspect to it, and a lifestyle impact towards that, but more capable and able to do things in our 90s now than we ever were. So as a result of that, you can, if you have the desire to, continue to work. And I guess that longevity within life, I mean, imagine doing something at 16 and then retiring at, let's say, 70 and doing that same thing for that whole time. Like, I get bored after doing something for 6 months. Like, I need something to stimulate me and to learn from, and to kind of challenge me as a human being. So that's like really interesting. And I love that perspective of it. And I think that what you and Annie are doing are like totally inspiring, especially for younger people, because I mean, both generations, but I think as a young person, I also get fearful that I guess sometimes I have this thought that, oh, what if I don't like achieve what I need to achieve? And just talking to you guys and like you've got so much success and you've achieved so much success in like post 40, 50, 60 that it like you don't have to peak in your 20s, or you don't have to peak in your 30s.
Yeah, and I think it's unrealistic actually to say, you know, when you leave school at 16, you know exactly what you're going to do. And I think part of the journey of building your confidence in this life is having those experiences and finding out what you like and what you don't like doing. And if you're not open to change, then how do you do that? So I think it has shifted now.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it has.
So just to kind of finish off, what I would like you both to do is just share a couple of things that you've achieved in the last 10 years that you think may inspire both older and younger people to just have that go-getter, opportunity taker and optimistic later life. So like maybe pick 2 things, talk about them. I mean, I'm already way inspired. I don't need 2 more things, but just to finish off.
I would say for me, one of the big things that I've done in the last 10 years is travel, because I didn't do it when I was younger for lots of different reasons, lack of confidence, lack of funds. And now it's one thing that I'm really encouraging my 3 kids to do, is to get out there and travel and experience the world. So in the last 10 years, that's had a huge impact on me. So I went with a group of people I'd never met before and went to volunteer in Uganda and work in an orphanage, and ended up setting up a charity and raising money to make playgrounds and provide playgrounds for early years education there, which was an amazing experience. And I just learned so much about myself and from other people, and just being part of different cultures was really eye-opening. And also just the modelling career, starting that at a later life, because you just, saying yes to things you don't know where it's going to lead to. So by me saying yes to trying modelling, within a year I was in the Bahamas modelling against, alongside Ashley Graham and Lizzo, and in the first year. So I think you've just got to be open and say yes to lots of opportunities.
Sorry, just name drop there. Oh, brilliant. That's absolutely amazing, Rachel. Thank you so much for sharing that. It's, as I said, totally inspired, and it really gives me I feel like we worry about so many things throughout life, but I feel like teenagers and 20 to 30-year-olds are so obsessed with achieving at a young age that it can be it's just so beneficial to hear, because if you don't have those role models that are your family and friends, which most people don't have that, and then you don't think that it's possible. But when you hear people like Rachel and Annie went and started a Silver and Sassy fashion event, you're like, oh my gosh, yes, this is so empowering, especially as a woman as well. So that's fantastic. How about you, Annie?
Well, I think my mantra is very similar to Rachel's, really. To get on with it. Mine is just do it. And I think that we talked about it at the start of the podcast, didn't we? About having, this thought that at 20 and 30, that if you didn't do it now, you'd never do it. Well, that just isn't the case at all. And I think that if I were to tell my younger self, and if I was, kind of knew now what I didn't know then, it would be just to grab at every opportunity, but just say yes to anything, because you absolutely don't know where it's going to lead, and it always leads somewhere. It might be not down the path that you want to go necessarily, but there are lots of little forks along the way, and you'll meet different people, and it might be the path that you thought, well, I would never do that, but you end up absolutely loving it. So I think just say yes to everything. Don't let your fear about anything put you off, and don't be in a rush to just do stuff in your 20s and 30s, because there is so much time ahead and so many opportunities ahead to change direction, to change tack, to do something completely different. And I think the other thing that I would do, that I didn't realise, and I would have liked to have done it sooner, was to work for, not work for, but volunteer for a charity. And I learned a lot about, Rachel was saying, to have travelling broadens your mind. It absolutely does. So doing something completely out of your comfort zone, and I'd never done any work with a charity, but it really opened my eyes to something completely different. And I remember when I went along to the charity, it was Kira actually, and they said to me, what are you going to get out of it? And I'd never thought about it in that way. I'd always thought that charity work was about you doing something for someone else or an organisation or person. I'd never thought about it that a charity work was as much about what you get from it yourself. And that didn't sit right with me when I heard that. I thought, well, that's a bit odd, but it's completely the thing. And I think you do learn so much about yourself, how you relate to other people, what you can do for other people, and about how you think, how you believe, what your values are. And I think it's just a brilliant thing to do, and I wish I'd done more of it when I was younger. It makes you feel good.
I think that's wonderful, especially about I feel like traveling was a huge thing in like the 60s and 70s. Like you can go and kind of trek or hike or youth hostel or whatever it is. And I would like to say that I'm quite well traveled, because I love it. And I took, during my university breaks, we had like amazing holidays, in terms of, it was like 3 months long. So I had loads of time to do things. So I've worked in Italy, I've worked in Texas, I've worked in Croatia. So I've had the opportunity to live in those countries. And I think since I graduated university, I've just been on holidays. And although I have been on lovely, lovely holidays, and I feel so, so spoiled, to have those opportunities, during the pandemic, I think I really realized how I need traveling, not just to enjoy myself and have fun, but to like soul search and really like understand like not my purpose in life, because I don't think you'll never know your purpose in life, but to just find a purpose. And I would really recommend a book by Matthew McConaughey, which came out during lockdown, and it's called Green Lights. And it's all about like how your journey, your life journey takes you in all these different directions, and how these opportunities can be like red, green or orange lights, and how you deal with them kind of forms the person that you become and forms the decisions that you can make. And that reminiscing on those decisions is also really, really important. Well, that's what I took from the book anyway. Somebody else might read it and take something else completely different. But I'd really recommend that, because it's so, like Matthew McConaughey traveled a lot, and he lived in a camper van and did all of these things. And it just, not only to become I aspire to be a successful human being. That doesn't mean I have to be rich and famous, but that means I have to live a full life. And I think to be able to do that, you do need to experience so many different cultures. And the only way to do that is through traveling. Because you can just kind of sit really comfortably in a bubble when you don't travel. So that inspires me to be like, actually stop making excuses. I must go and start deciding on where I'm going to go next and travel the world. So thank you for that kick up the bum. And thank you so much for coming onto the Mature Movers podcast to share your journeys and your stories and your experiences. I really, really appreciate that. And I think it also can be really hard to like share these thoughts and feelings sometimes. So well done. And before we finish up, please share the best way to contact you, any information on your Silver and Sassy events. Is it Silver and Sassy or Sassy
It
and
is.
Silver?
No, it's
Yeah?
Silver and Sassy.
Silver and Sassy.
Yes. Yeah.
And anything else you want to add before we wrap up?
We've got a Silver and Sassy Instagram, so come and say hello over there, and it's Silver and Sassy. And it's got an underscore at the end, but you'll find us. And you can come and say hello to me on Instagram as well at Rachel Peru 1.
And mine's Annie Stirk model, and obviously on the Silver and Sassy website as well. So pop on and say hello and join us, especially if you've got grey, silver or white hair.
Brilliant. So to find out about Silver and Sassy, the next Silver and Sassy event, the best thing to do, I'm guessing, is to go onto the Silver and Sassy website.
Instagram is our main platform at the moment. We are having a website sorted out this year, so by the time the event's up, it'll be up and running. But we've also got a Silver and Sassy Facebook page as well, so we will just be sharing on social media.
Brilliant. So just Google Silver and Sassy and I'm sure it'll come up.
We'll be there.
Thank you, ladies, so much. And all the best for your next adventures.
Thank you. It's lovely talking to you. Thank you.
Thank you.